Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Amore and I'm running for Secretary of State. I'm here today to raise some serious questions that deserve answers. The voters of Massachusetts need to have faith in both the voting system and the people who run our elections. Unfortunately today there is cause for concern. Bill Galvin has taken control of the recount in Lawrence and Lowell. This has reminded us all of a chilling statement made by Mr. Galvin to Lawrence Mayor Rivera. Mr. Galvin was upset the mayor endorsed his primary challenger, Josh Zakim. Mr. Galvin told Mayor Rivera in a heated phone call, "I made you mayor." This was after a close election overseen by Mr. Galvin's office. I think the voters deserve to know, what did Mr. Galvin mean when he said, "I made you mayor"? Think about it. This is the chief elections officer of the state. His office has supervised a close mayoral election that Rivera wins by a close margin. And later, Mr. Galvin says, "I made you mayor." This is a very troubling statement to be made by the top election official in the state. And Mr. Galvin has never explained what he meant by that comment. What is the average voter supposed to think? If Mr. Galvin made the mayor, has he made other elected officials? Is he now trying to make a member of Congress? There are 55 days to Election Day, and the 3rd Congressional District voters do not know who the Democratic candidate will be. What happens if the recount fails to settle the question and this drags on? Will ballots be printed in time? What happens with early voting? What happens with military ballots? Will voters have enough time to learn about each candidate? Mr. Galvin has been in office a long time. He knows the short time span from the primary to the general election causes problems with smooth running elections. It's a problem if there are recounts. He's had problems with getting ballots printed and sent overseas to the military. Mr. Galvin also knows the short window between primary and general elections are widely viewed as favoring incumbents, of which he is one. The theory goes, the less time voters have to focus on challengers, the more likely it is incumbents will be reelected. Is his lack of action on moving primaries to earlier in the year because it would weaken the incumbent advantage? Can Mr. Galvin say he is committed to fair and well-run elections and yet have done nothing to advocate for more time between primary and general elections? That's why I support moving the primary to the spring. It gives plenty of time for the general election, for sorting out issues and making sure voters everywhere have time to learn about the candidates, get a ballot, and vote on time. The very fact we have this turmoil in this recount is evidence that Mr. Galvin's focus has not been on running good, fair elections. The focus has been elsewhere. Last week, I spoke to voters about Mr. Galvin's tombstone approach to managing crises. Mr. Galvin waits for a problem to happen before he tries to fix it. Personally, I prefer to prevent disasters. So I guess that's a clear distinction between me and Mr. Galvin. This recount and these problems were foreseeable. We have a 10-way race with no clear frontrunner. Of course it's going to be close. There was short staffing in Lawrence. That should not be a surprise he discovers after the election. Allegedly, Mr. Galvin found problems with the paperwork in Lowell. But where was the training? Where's the investment in people we asked to conduct our precious elections? He should have predicted and planned for a close outcome. He could have predicted the need to seal the ballots and ensure accurate paperwork. He should have given a refresher to election workers. Again, this was entirely predictable, but Mr. Galvin waits until disaster strikes and then tries to fix it. Why? I suggest there are 2 possible reasons. 1, Mr. Galvin just likes it that way. He can ride in and save the day while blaming the mess on someone else. 2, Mr. Galvin, the maker of mayors, is playing politics with our election system. Both options trouble me greatly, and they should trouble the taxpayers as well. The questions linger about why Mr. Galvin thinks he made the mayor, why he has done nothing to end the primary problem. These issues are predictable and preventable, yet here we are. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.